Have you ever prayed and felt like nothing happened? You whispered words in the night. You cried tears no one else could see. And you waited. Days passed, months passed, even years. And still, no answer came. In those moments, it is easy to believe your prayers are wasted. Maybe you think, God doesn't hear me. Maybe He doesn't care. But the truth is this: no prayer is ever wasted. God hears every word. He sees every tear, and He holds every cry close to His heart. Psalm 56:8 says that God keeps your tears in His bottle. That means every time you have prayed, every time you have poured your soul before Him, He has treasured it. His silence is not His absence. His delay is not His denial. This story will remind you that your prayers are working in ways you cannot see, and in God's perfect time, He will answer in a way that shows His love and His glory. Chapter 1. The Silence of Heaven. One of the hardest parts of prayer is silence. You kneel, you speak, you beg, but nothing seems to change. The heavens feel closed and your heart begins to doubt. Hannah knew this feeling well. In 1 Samuel 1, she longed for a child. Year after year, she went to the temple, crying out to God. Her rival mocked her, and even her husband could not understand her pain. To everyone else, it seemed like Hannah's prayers were useless, wasted words falling into the air. But God was listening. He was keeping each tear, each whisper, each desperate cry. And in the right time, He answered, giving her Samuel, a son who would become a prophet and leader for Israel. Hannah's story reminds us that silence is not the end. In the silence, God is still working. Maybe you are living in that silence right now. You have prayed for healing, for guidance, for breakthrough, and nothing seems to move. But do not lose heart. The silence of heaven is not emptiness. It is preparation. Just as God was preparing Hannah's heart and future, He is preparing something for you too. Your prayer has not been ignored. It has been heard, and it is being written into a story greater than you can imagine. Chapter 2. God keeps every tear. When we pray, sometimes we think only the words matter. But God sees more than words. He sees the heart behind them, the tears that fall, the sighs too deep for language. Psalm 56:8 says, "You have kept count of my tossings. Put my tears in your bottle. Are they not in your record?" Imagine that for a moment. Every tear you've cried in prayer has been collected by God, as if each one is precious treasure. None of them are forgotten. None of them ignored. Hannah's tears in the temple were not wasted. David's tears in the wilderness were not wasted. Your tears are not wasted either. Maybe you prayed late at night, asking God to save a loved one. Maybe you prayed in fear, asking Him to provide for your needs. Maybe you prayed in loneliness, longing for comfort. Every prayer, every tear has been written in His book. Sometimes you don't see an answer right away. Sometimes it feels like your tears only fall to the ground. But in heaven, they are gathered. They speak louder than you know. And one day, God will show you that not a single tear was in vain. The prayers you thought were forgotten are still alive before Him, waiting for His perfect time. Chapter 3. Delay is not denial. One of the greatest lies the enemy whispers is this: if God hasn't answered yet, He never will. But delay is not denial. God's timing is different from ours, and His ways are higher. Think of Lazarus in John 11. When he became sick, his sisters Mary and Martha sent for Jesus, saying, "Lord, the one you love is sick." They expected Him to come quickly. But Jesus delayed 2 days before going. By the time He arrived, Lazarus was dead. Martha cried, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." It looked too late. The prayers seemed wasted. But Jesus had a greater plan. He called Lazarus out of the tomb, and a miracle happened. greater than anyone had imagined. Sometimes God waits, not because he doesn't care, but because he is preparing something bigger. The delay creates space for his glory to shine. What looks like silence may actually be God's hand arranging the perfect moment. When your prayer seems unanswered, remember Lazarus. Remember that God's "not yet" is not the same as no. It may feel late, but with God, it is always right on time. Chapter 4. The Hidden Work of Prayer. Prayer is not only about asking and receiving, it is also about becoming. Every time you pray, even when you don't see results, God is shaping your heart. In the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus prayed 3 times. "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done." Luke 22:42. The Father did not remove the cross, but through prayer, Jesus found the strength to endure it. This shows us something powerful. Prayer does not always change the situation, but it always changes the heart. Sometimes, when God seems silent, he is actually working in you, teaching patience, building faith, breaking pride, drawing you closer to him. Think of it like roots under the soil. You cannot see them growing, but they are going deeper and stronger. Your prayers are like water to those roots. They sustain you even in dry seasons. Maybe you have prayed for a door to open and it hasn't. Maybe you prayed for healing and still wait. But in the hidden place, your prayer is doing unseen work. God is not only preparing the answer, he is preparing you to receive it. Chapter 5. Stories of answered prayers. The Bible is full of people who waited and prayed, sometimes for years before seeing God's answer. Abraham and Sarah longed for a child. They prayed, they hoped, they even doubted. Decades passed and still no son. But when Abraham was 100 years old, God gave them Isaac, the child of promise. Zechariah and Elizabeth too prayed for a child. For years, nothing happened. They grew old, and it seemed impossible. Yet God answered, giving them John the Baptist, the one who would prepare the way for Jesus. These stories remind us that no prayer was wasted, even when it seemed hopeless. God's timing looked late, but it was perfect. Perhaps you are standing in the middle of unanswered prayers right now. You wonder if God has forgotten. But remember Abraham. Remember Sarah. Remember Elizabeth. The same God who heard them hears you. The same God who answered them will answer you, in his way and his time. What you sow in tears, you will one day reap in joy. Chapter 6. Keep praying, keep trusting. When prayers seem unanswered, the greatest temptation is to stop, to give up, to say, "What's the point?" But Jesus told his disciples a parable, so that they should always pray and not give up. Luke 18:1. He spoke about a widow who kept coming to a judge, asking for justice. At first, the judge refused. But because she did not stop, he finally granted her request. Jesus' lesson was clear. If even an unjust judge responds to persistence, how much more will our loving Father respond to his children? Every time you pray, you are not wasting breath. You are planting seeds. Some grow quickly, some take years, but all are seen by God. Prayer is not about twisting God's arm. It is about holding his hand, day after day, until his promise unfolds. Maybe you have prayed 1,000 times for the same thing. Maybe you are weary of repeating the same cry. Friend, do not quit. Keep praying. Keep trusting. For in the unseen, your prayer is working, and in heaven, it is recorded. One day, you will see that not a single prayer was wasted. No prayer is ever wasted. Look back at your journey, the nights you cried, the words you whispered, the long seasons of waiting. None of it was meaningless. God heard it all. He kept every tear, every word, every hope. His silence was not absence. His delay was not denial. He was writing a story greater than you imagined. Hannah's tears gave birth to Samuel. Abraham's waiting brought forth Isaac. Elizabeth's prayers prepared the way for Jesus. And your prayers are part of the same story of God's faithfulness. So do not let the silence break your faith. Do not let the waiting steal your hope. Keep praying. Keep trusting. Your prayers rise like incense before the throne of God, and He treasures them. No prayer is ever wasted. In His time, in His way, He will answer. Until then, trust His heart, because He has never failed, and He never will.